All right. Hey, welcome everybody. It is Wednesday, 7 o'clock. We're back from one week off.
1 week, and then
Hey,
you're off
a
to.
little Shatner recovery day.
We had a Shatner recovery, and then you're off to
And then I'm
exciting.
off. Yeah, we're not. There will be no show next week. We'll of course
Yeah.
say this again at the end of the week because I'm on my way to Las Vegas for the Star Trek
Las Vegas.
So, viva Las Vegas.
Viva Las Vegas.
So we decided, hey, why not do another great Spielberg movie? So
yes, we've been doing a lot of Spielberg lately.
1977's Close Encounters of the Third Kind, another classic from Spielberg. It's funny rewatching this though. I did notice some stuff that I went, well, that's kind of nuts.
Yeah, can we talk about? I love this. I love this movie, and I would never dare to criticize it. But in the interest of
yeah, I had some criticizing it watching it the second time.
I found a criticism from Spielberg himself that I want to talk about tonight. So
okay.
Yeah.
All right, but before we get to that, I assume you have news.
I do have news. Let me scroll up to the. There's been a lot of real world news happening. Luckily, I don't have to report on any of that crap. But I'm just going to tell you some sci-fi news. Before the break, guys, in sad sci-fi news, I had reported on Donald Sutherland's passing. Sadly, now we have a whole list of people to add. Not all of these are sci-fi people, but we've lost Richard Simmons, Shannon Doherty, Dr. Ruth, Shelley Duvall, who I adored in the live-action Popeye, James Sikking, who was the captain of the Excelsior in Star Trek 3, Martin Mull, and Bob Newhart.
Bob Newhart, yeah.
Well passed. May they boldly go. They will be missed.
Yeah.
Happy Deadpool and Wolverine weekend to everyone. I hope you got your ticket. Did you get tickets, Roselle?
Oh, I'll just get them at the theater. I don't.
Oh, okay.
I think it's where I live. You usually don't think
you're going to get them at the theater. I think it's going to be sold out.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see. All right, moving on. Taika Waititi has remade Time Bandits. It is streaming on Apple TV starting July 24, which is today. So it's on Apple TV starting today. I'm going to drop a link to the trailer in the chat later for you guys. I like Taika Waititi. I like Time Bandits. I don't feel that this. No, it just didn't. I don't think this is going to work, but we'll see.
Well, give it a try. You really kind of.
Yeah, I mean, you know why? It stars Lisa Kudrow. I don't like Lisa Kudrow.
Oh well, then now you're just projecting.
Now I'm projecting. Moving on. Red Dwarf has announced it will be filming 3 new half-hour specials starting in October for release in 2025. I will update everyone on that as soon as I have a release date. I meant to tell you, and Rizzo, I'd like to hear your opinion on this. I meant to tell you all a couple weeks ago, and it slipped my news radar, that a judge in New Mexico has dismissed the case against Alec Baldwin about that on-set shooting of the cinematographer on the set of the movie Rust. The judge found that the prosecution withheld evidence that shed light on how those live rounds even got onto the set in the first place. I'm not going to say it exonerates Baldwin, but it clearly shows like there's procedures in place and something went awry that was not Baldwin's fault. This dismissal was with quote unquote prejudice, which means it cannot be retried. It was basically the judge telling the prosecution, you fucked up. What do you think about that, Rizzo?
Yeah, I mean, I was really frankly, I was shocked that they were going to charge him with, with manslaughter or whatever they were charging him with, involuntary, because, I mean, it was pretty clear. I mean, it seemed to me that he had no idea that there were live rounds. He was relying on his armor to provide him with a safe weapon. I know that people say, well, you never pick up a gun, you never check it. But, we are talking about certain circumstances. This is a set. This isn't.
Because it never should have been live rounds.
All the blame, to me, at least from what I've read, lies at the feet of this armor, who apparently appeared to be very incompetent and not qualified to do the job in the first place. There should have never been live rounds anywhere on the set. There's no reason to have live rounds on the set, from what I understand. So, I think I didn't hear the bit about that they had withheld evidence, which. Clearly, it was like they just after a witch hunt at that point. And
they were, I think they were after Baldwin.
The only reason, and I think the only blame, and again, there could be plenty of civil lawsuits, and there probably will, if not already, for him, because he was the executive producer of the film, right? So again, I believe he's ultimately responsible, and he could financially, I mean, in a civil, not a criminal case. So. but I think it was probably, in my opinion, I don't think he should have been tried for that. That just seemed crazy right from the beginning. So that's
yeah. I agree. Let's move on. So yeah, Captain America: Brave New World teaser trailer is out. I will drop that in the chat as well. It is due out on February 14th. This one is going to star Anthony Mackie as Captain America and Harrison Ford as Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross. In Star Trek news, Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks were both nominated for Emmys, but in sound editing, which to me is kind of weird, but okay, whatever. And Star Trek Prodigy and Star Trek Lower Decks both won gold in the inaugural Animation Collision Awards. Congratulations to both of them. Finally tonight, in other Star Trek news, and Rizzo, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this too. The movie that we didn't ask for and that we don't want, Star Trek Origins, is supposedly set mostly on Earth. Okay. Paramount is ostensibly working on 3 movies right now. Section 31, this Star Trek Origins thing that we don't care about, and another one with Chris Pine and company.
Now, is the Origins one, is that another Skydance along with the Chris Pine one, or is that it is Skydance?
Yes.
Okay.
No, it'll be Sky. Yeah.
But Section 31 is
JJ.
just Paramount. Like,
I think it's just Paramount by itself. But see, now that the mergers happened, I don't know how that changes everything.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, I don't know how.
Paramount. Yeah.
Well, let me give you this last tidbit, and then I want to hear what you think about this. Paramount is under criticism for not churning out Star Trek movies quickly enough. Critics are saying it's going to be hard to keep audiences interested if the studio drags its feet. Hello, the studio just went through a huge merger. Now, the Origins film will depict the events leading up to the formation of Starfleet and the Federation. This storyline, Rizzo, sounds suspiciously close to recreating the events of Star Trek Enterprise with Captain Archer. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see how they tackle that, because they were tackling that in season 4 of Star Trek Enterprise.
Yes.
So had we got into a 5th season, so at the end, if you guys aren't aware, at the end of season 4 of Star Trek Enterprise, they were forming the Federation.
Yes.
So how they address that is going to be interesting. I'm not optimistic that they are going to have any connection or, take anything from Star Trek Enterprise as far as whether it be the look.
Yeah, I mean, will we see a cameo?
Anything? I suspect they're going to rewrite it all. It's going to be a Star Trek Discovery version of it.
Yeah, if it's the version with Chris Pine, if it's that same universe as Chris Pine and all them guys,
well,
they can mind
that up until that universe didn't change. In other words, that timeline didn't diverge until much past the Archer era. So everything was paralleling until Spock went back and the whole Vulcan, not Vulcan, Romulus blew up and all that. Yeah. So we're only talking Kirk's father, right? Kirk was a baby. So 30 years before. George and Kirk was baby. So say 30, 35 years before, or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah.
Before. Yeah. So anyway. So theoretically, it should be the same, even if they're doing JJ Trek timeline. My guess is they'll go, "Oh, this is Discovery."
Yeah, they probably will. We'll see what happens. So that's all I have for news tonight. Are we drinking anything while we talk about?
You have a drink.
And while you pull up the drink, can I mention that if you guys haven't heard already, Darren Doctorman and the Okudas and all those guys have just done an amazing documentary. Yes. On 2001.
2001, yeah. It's on YouTube. Watch it. It's about 45 minutes long. It's excellent. And as Darren said, they're very proud because they didn't use one clip from the actual movie.
Yeah. They recreated.
Anything you see was a recreation. So they did a very excellent job.
You guys like my Devil's Tower?
So this is the drink. It's called the Close Encounter. It's just basically triple sec, blue curacao, and orange juice. And you kind of layer it. The instructions are there. They're a little hard to read, but I put them in there anyway. You can read it on the website or on the Facebook page, rather. And it's a pretty simple drink. It's green.
It looks delicious. I bet it would go great with Devil's Tower.
It probably would. You and your mashed potatoes.
Hey, I like mashed potatoes. All right.
Okay. So this is an interesting film on many levels. One, it is a divergent from what we were used to seeing about aliens visiting Earth. Usually they were invading.
Good point.
It
But
had a
usually we
very
meet them with guns and tanks.
right. We usually met them with guns, and I was going to talk about that. It had a feel of it, and in some ways, not really. I mean, at least in the overall premise of The Day the Earth Stood Still, where the aliens are kind of coming. They're not. They're relatively malevolent.
More wonder.
These are good aliens. These again, I think Spielberg seems to like the good aliens because then he went and did E.T. a few years later. So
yeah.
So we don't see the one. So basically, that we have two storylines with this film. There's a story of the scientists who are finding the clues that they find the airplanes in the Mexican desert. There was a scene. Wasn't there a scene? I think that I saw the director's cut where they find a ship. I did too.
I saw the director's cut.
And wasn't there one where they find a ship in the middle of a desert?
They find the Cotopaxi ship in the desert in the Gobi Desert. That was Flight 19.
Yeah, they didn't. I didn't see that in the director's cut. The ship.
I watched the director's cut. I saw the ship Cotopaxi. Cotopaxi.
I must have looked away or something at that. Anyway. Okay.
Because then I googled the ship. I was like, Cotopaxi. Oh, it was a real ship. Oh, it really sunk. Okay.
Yeah, cool. No. So was Flight 19. That was a
and Flight 19 is a real one too.
So anyway, so the scientists, they're finding these evidence, and then the French scientist, of course, he's searching, and then we have this other group of people who are being visited actually by the aliens, and somehow get the message to go to Devil's Tower. Because that's where they want to meet everybody at Devil's Tower.
Yes.
Incidentally, the coordinates are not for Devil's Tower.
No, they're not. They're for a little farm right outside of Alt, Colorado.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating to me and me alone. Anyway.
Like, why didn't they use the actual coordinates?
Why didn't they use the actual address of Devil's Tower?
Yeah, it seems kind of silly. Why wouldn't they do that? I mean, it's a national park, so it's not like you're saying, "Oh, this is somebody's backyard." Oh
well.
Anyway, so you have these two that eventually these stories eventually merge at the end. You could see where Spielberg, he's got Richard Dreyfuss in there. He's pulling, again, people that
Richard campaigned hard for that role.
Yeah, but I don't think he probably had to campaign very hard because I think Spielberg already knew him, particularly from American Graffiti, which was George Lucas's film,
and Jaws.
But then Jaws, of course,
Lucas was looking at Steve McQueen, not just Steve McQueen, but he was actually
George didn't do this one.
Oh, sorry. Spielberg. My bad. Spielberg was looking at Steve McQueen, Al Pacino, Dustin Hoffman, James Caan, Gene Hackman. And what was happening is he was writing it and working on it while they were working on Jaws. And so Dreyfuss would stop by and just say little things like, "Oh, Pacino has no sense of humor. I don't know if you want him in that role." And he would just say all these little comments about all these guys until finally Spielberg kind of realized the person I need to play this has to be like a child, and Dreyfuss was sitting right there, and it just clicked. They both were like, "Yeah, I'm there. Yeah, Dreyfuss, I'm doing this."
I mean, I could probably see like Dustin Hoffman pulling that off.
Maybe a young Dustin Hoffman.
Young Dustin Hoffman. Well, he would have been young then.
Yeah, would have been.
When was The Graduate? 1960.
They all those men I just mentioned would have been young men. Steve McQueen read the script, loved it, but then told Spielberg, "I love this script, but at the end he's crying. I can't cry. Or not at the end, but at the dinner table, I can't cry on cue like that. I just can't do it."
Yeah, that's the scene, the dinner scene, which is also an interesting scene because with the mashed potatoes, the little girl says, "There's a fly in my mashed potatoes," which was
that was not the script.
That was unscripted. She just really saw a fly in her mashed potatoes.
The kids, his
the
work
crew apparently almost lost it.
Yeah,
They powered through, and then they end up using that.
And they use that take. There's a fly in my mashed potatoes.
Right, but, and speaking of little kids, the kid that plays Barry, the little
Carrie
Guffey, he was so good. He would make one or two takes.
Yeah, one take Carrie.
Yeah, his last name was Carrie.
Yeah. So, and he wasn't. He was 3. He was not acting. He was literally just reacting to Spielberg.
But he just did what he had to do. And
there's a lot of interviews with him out there, and he has some great stories that I can share with you.
I'm surprised
all the kids. The one kid, the younger of the 2 sons, was actually Dreyfuss's nephew. It's Justin Dreyfuss, his brother's kid, I guess. Spielberg did a really great job with the kids. But I want to talk about the difference between Carrie and the boys, the Neary boys. And I have to talk a little bit about Terry Garr's character too. And I'm just going to jump right into the one criticism that came from Spielberg himself. He said, "I had set the whole movie up the Terry Garr was deliberately written as being a rather unsympathetic wife. The sons were deliberately written. If you notice, those kids are always making noise and being raucous in the background to make like a just not dysfunctional, but just not a satisfying, peaceful home life. Chaotic home life. So that when he leaves at the end, you have sympathy. Like, you're like, okay, yeah, he can go. And Spielberg later on came back and said, you know what? If I had to do this all over again, I would not have him leave his family like that. I would not have him, even though I'd written it.
The wife left him first.
Yeah, the wife just leaves. She goes to the sisters, but she's just stressed out. Yeah. Yeah. But he's like,
I don't at the very end where he just leaves Earth.
Where he just leaves, leaves, yeah. And Spielberg has later on come back and said, I don't think I would make him leave his children like that. I don't think I would make him leave his family like that. Because he really did just up and leave, like not even a note, like not even a.
Yeah. I mean, and then, you know, the government will make up something that he was, you know.
What did the government tell Terry Garr and the kids? Like, what happened?
Yeah, that's true. That's kind of a whole, I agree. And I did think of that too when he was getting on the ship. You know, and there was a version where they showed the inside where he and I noticed that wasn't in the director's cut.
That's the special edition.
Yeah, and I don't think
despises it, and I agree with him.
You know, it didn't need to be there.
Did not need to be there.
I don't know why they did it.
It's so much better to just leave all that up to your imagination.
Yeah, in fact, even the fact that we saw the aliens so much, I would have been actually okay if we never saw them, if they never came out of the ship.
We saw them a lot more than I expected. And even that, they said, Spielberg said he showed them as sparingly as he could, but I still felt like we saw a lot.
Well, there was like the one weird one at the first, like the spidery looking
one. Yeah, the puppet one.
And then all of a sudden there's all the little ones from Galaxy Quest.
Yeah.
They're gonna get evil and they're gonna.
Yeah. Did you ever watch the show?
Did you watch the show?
They're gonna eat Guy.
Or they get Guy. Anyway, but that's what it kind of reminded me, because they're all running around. They're all like little. They must have been like kids or something in those costumes.
Yeah, but Jerry's anyway. Jerry's just saying the Close Encounters and V. Yeah, you're right. At the end,
okay, I'm gonna put that. I'll put that up because I was gonna actually mention that the red outfits with the patch and the sunglasses screamed V. The original 1980s. It had a very similar thing. And you're right, it did. I'm sure it had nothing to do with anything. It was just coincidence, because this was a decade before V, right? Or almost, probably. I don't know when V.
This was 1983, so this is really like.
So it was 6 years prior.
Yeah.
6 years prior. Maybe they took it, maybe they didn't.
I'm sure it was a nod.
I think it was. Yeah. So anyway. But I did notice that too. I was going to mention that it had it had definite V vibes when those guys marched. You notice the only one they wanted was Richard Dreyfuss. Like, these other people are like, yeah, we don't want you.
Well, I think the gist we were supposed to. I'm not sure about this, but I think the gist is, remember, it was him. It was Melinda Dillon's character, and it was that guy Larry who ended up falling asleep in the. And there was a bunch of them who all felt compelled to go.
Right.
I think that was the people they wanted to take with them.
Oh, absolutely. And that's kind of what Truffaut says. He's like when they're taking money, he's like they were invited. So yes, clearly they that's what that's what my little tagline. He was invited. That clearly that was what the aliens intended. They for some reason handpicked certain people, or maybe they didn't handpick. They were just the ones that they encountered, and they didn't want.
Like, and how did they decide? Was it when the UFO was it when Neary was in his truck and the UFO was overhead? Is that when they decided? This one's good.
Absolutely, for whatever reason, and we don't know. We'll never know what their reasoning was. Why they picked who they picked, and maybe because he just happened to be out there.
I mean, what a great power! The truck sequence, I think, stands out. That in the house, the little kid in the house sequence, they stand out as some of the best to this day. Some of the best, scary but fabulous UFO.
The kid in the house was actually pretty scary, even in 1977. I mean, especially when you didn't know. Remember when we didn't know that the aliens were benevolent.
No, we didn't.
So we had no idea where the movie was going initially.
The only clue we have is that this kid isn't scared. When there's the orange light, and Spielberg has said that the scene where the kid opens the door and it's all orange outside, he goes, that in my mind is it. That's Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
I gotta say though, if I was a little kid laying in my room and all the toys started coming to life and driving around on their own, I would be like, hey, let's go play. I would have been scared out of my head. Crap in my pants.
The only clue the clue we had that the aliens were benevolent was the kid was not afraid. He was ready to go outside with them. And then when he sees them in the kitchen, he kind of smiled, like he kind of looks all happy and smile.
Yeah, I guess my guess is, and this is what I think maybe they were trying to imply, that they were communicating with this kid somebody on a mental level. So he was really talking to them in some way that he knew that they weren't a threat to him. And I think that's where that's how I kind of parsed that out in my own brain, saying, okay, he had conversation was psychic.
Yeah, and whatever their conversation was, they let the kid go. He comes off the ship again with like all the other people from.
Yeah, I didn't really understand what the point of taking the kid in the first place was.
Yeah, if you're only going to have him for like 15 minutes.
Yeah, well, that why would you take him if you're benevolent? I mean, you had to know you were taking away from the mother, that it was traumatic for her. Yeah. What was your end game there to have this kid? You obviously had all these humans that you've abducted over the last 100 years or whatever.
Many generations. Yeah. Surely one of them was like, don't take children away from their mothers.
Ken's saying we still don't know if they were benevolent. They just didn't kill us at all at the same time.
Yeah, they just didn't kill us.
Could be like B again, right, Kent? You know, they just come in here to steal the water and eat us as food.
Yeah.
We don't know. We assume they were benevolent since they didn't, like, they clearly were on a much higher technological level.
Bill is saying perhaps those who were able to get the message best, like maybe the message only got through to some people, were able to communicate with the aliens, and that's why
the way their brains were wired, and that's the only way. Yeah,
because
I don't know.
Neary's character, like there's toys all over the house. He liked playing with the trains. He wasn't he was a grown ass adult, but he wasn't. I think that we were supposed to get the gist that he was still childlike at heart. With Neary, I don't know. Remember,
I thought they showed the trains. You know, I thought they showed the trains. I thought they showed the trains.
Thousands of lives are at stake.
I think they showed. I thought they showed the train to as kind of a foreshadowing of him being able to build the big sculpture. That he had the skills to build the model so that he can make this giant. I could be way off, but I always thought that was the reason they had it. Because Spielberg always loves to show little things. Nods to things that are going to happen. I could be right though. So,
that's a good point. There were models all over the house, including blink and you miss it, the Starship Enterprise. Hi, Dr. Alexander. Have you dug out from Beryl yet? I hope all is well down there.
Hope you have power yet.
I hope you have power, and if you don't have power, don't watch us. Charge your devices when you can.
So anyway, but it's just what we were talking about. Yeah, So then the other thing I think was kind of interesting was this is one of the few movies where we were kind of touched on it earlier, where the army wasn't there to try to blow them out of the sky.
No,
there was no mention of any fighter aircraft in the area of any kind. It was all just like trying to search them out and contact them, not kill them.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think that would be accurate in a real world scenario, but I think it's an interesting point again that we weren't looking to kill whatever we don't understand.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think the final scene at Devil's Tower, I think there would have been a combination of scientists, but I think the military, in real life, the military would be there with backup should it go horrifically awry. You know?
Yeah. Sorry, the airspace was cleared, but you think there would have been like fighter jets, something.
You would.
They were keeping everything out of the area.
Yeah.
I don't know if you would have ever been able to keep that a secret, because clearly all the military, guys on the ground knew that the gas leak was
not a real gas leak.
And because as soon as the civilians were out of the area, they all took their masks off. Okay, we don't have to fake it anymore. So I don't know. I've always had this theory that a conspiracy that large would never stand. Somebody's going to leak it. Somebody's going to
Yeah, I agree. I mean, did you see how many personnel was working? Like how many scientists personnel?
Yeah.
Someone's gonna leak something somewhere. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, I mean, and then you figure the military around it, even if they didn't really know what was going on.
What's going on? They'd be like, we had to do this
like,
weird.
Oh yeah, there was no leak. It was so anyway.
Doc says he has power, but tree and fencing. It sounds like trees and fencing still down. It's gonna be a couple of weeks. Oh, sorry, Doc. I hope you can get
got power. That's the
Yeah, if he's got power and water, then you're winning. You are doing better than most folks. Good for you. Anyway, let me look at my notes. I've got all kinds of fun notes. Is this Spielberg's best film? I actually think yes. I really do. This is my let me rephrase. This is my favorite Spielberg film. Is it his best, objectively his best film?
No.
You think no? Which one do you think?
It's a good movie. It has its flaws. His best film?
Yeah. E.T., right?
No. I'm not. I like E.T., but I'm not this huge fan of E.T. I mean, it's a fun movie. It's cute and everything, but I'd say you're getting into more like Schindler's List.
Oh.
More like Saving Private Ryan, I think was better.
Okay, yeah, hard-hitting real life. Yeah.
Yeah, I think those to me, I enjoyed Jaws more than this, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, I did. I
enjoyed this more than Jaws.
Yeah.
But I love me a good UFO story. You guys all know
it's 1941. We just did that a couple weeks ago. 1941.
Yeah, we did just do.
I did like 1941. 1941 was a fun movie.
We've done now a bunch of Spielberg, including all
covering pretty much almost his whole. And really,
we haven't
Raiders,
done E.T.
I know Raiders was
held out on E.T.
I think Raiders is a better movie, and I know Lucas has a lot to do with that, so it's not really fair comparison.
Yeah, Bill is saying if Star Wars hadn't go, here's the thing, Bill, is this thing was shot in 77, right? Is it right? Yeah, this thing was shot in 77. And Spielberg wanted to release it in 78 or even 79. Like he wanted to take time in the editing and the post special effects. And the studio was like, no, bang it out. Why? Probably Star Wars.
Well, that's what Bill just put it up there. Would it be as popular? It's a good question, Bill. I don't know. Star Wars changed the landscape in Hollywood overnight dramatically. Really as we know, we've mentioned it many times. Star Trek, the motion picture, would not exist if it wasn't for Star Wars. We might have had another Star Trek TV show starring William Shatner.
We had Phase 2.
We would have had Phase 2. But we wouldn't have. But we also wouldn't have had shows like Battlestar Galactica or Buck Rogers or any of those shows that were direct results of Star Wars. So it's kind of hard to say. With this one, but it was already in the works before Star Wars was ever released.
Yeah. Oh, he had worked on this thing since he was 17. He had an idea for it, and he had to shelve it for a while. But once he did a good job with Jaws, the studio was like, okay, what else you got? And that's when he trotted out.
And then he got Doug Trumbull again for effects.
He had Doug Trumbull, Greg Jean, Dennis. Can't think of Dennis's last name. That guy.
Greg Jean to do the models, and we saw some of this again going back to 525.
I thought of that. I saw the color
that when
525.
When Patrick Reed Johnson as a teenager went and saw them making this in that scene, how they did the clouds, which was done with water and pouring the
yes, they put salt water, which is denser at the bottom. They put fresh water on top. I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you lay fresh water on top of salt water, but that's how they did it.
Well, salt water, salt water will be lighter, so it will go to the top.
Or it's lighter? No, it's denser.
It's denser. It's denser because you float and so it will float.
And you know what kind of cracked me up is when I saw 525, Patrick Reed Johnson had cast his Spielberg as a really young kid, like super young, and I thought, I don't know if he's that young. Well, I went and looked at like behind the scenes shots from this movie. Oh my God, he was so young. It was accurate. He looked so young. It was crazy. So I just thought that was so funny. Jeff is saying Schindler's List. Christopher likes always. Dr. Alexander says Saving Private Ryan. So everyone has their own favorite Spielberg.
I mean, let's just face it. Pretty much anything Spielberg makes, I can't think of a movie that I would say was bad. They're all good movies.
They are all good movies.
Where they are fall. I mean, we said what is best. I mean, I mentioned this on them, and nobody ever seems. I think I'm the only person that have seen Empire of the Sun.
No, we all know it exists. We just
I know. Nobody ever seems to ever say I'm like the only one that ever seen it.
Cover it on here.
No, we won't. But I mean, it's a great movie, and again, it's another one that wasn't hugely popular.
Yeah, Jeff. Even 1941, we did just do 1941 on the show.
I love 1941.
I love 1941.
Was funny.
I feel it was maybe not one of Spielberg's stronger films.
No, and it's not. And it didn't. They say it was one failure, but it really wasn't. Actually, it wasn't that bad.
Here's the thing about Spielberg is he was willing to try all kinds of crap. So they were talking about making this movie, and they were saying when it came to that alien scene, they were saying how much footage was unusable because Spielberg was just trying stuff. And you know what? Part of you, like the studio, might have been getting annoyed, but like I get it. Like he had the aliens going up on wires and floating around, and you can find that footage on YouTube if you look. He had them all going really fast, and there was little girls playing the little aliens, and he'd tell them fast hands and fast feet, and they'd go like this. And then he had mimes being the scientists, and they were moving really slow, so that when he filmed it, it would look like they were buzzing around and the people were at normal temp. Like he tried all these different things, and I gotta give him credit. Like they had a couple different puppets for the big spider alien. They had a couple different things that they tried. I gotta give him credit. I mean, that is a man in pursuit of perfection.
And you gotta remember, this is before the days of CGI, so everything was practical effects.
It was pretty much all practical effects. But this was the very first time, I think, ever. Maybe not ever. No, not ever. But this was an extraordinarily rare thing for Hollywood because Dreyfuss was commenting on this in an interview. He says we were constantly being told, look up in amazement at nothing. And he said back then, it was borderline insanity. No actor had ever heard of that. Like, look up at nothing and pretend you're reacting to something and that they were going to put it in later. He said that never happened. Now it's commonplace. By Jurassic Park, they were doing it all the time. And they would have tennis ball. In Jurassic Park, they had tennis balls on sticks for the actor's eyeline to follow. Yeah. And they do it all the time. They do all kinds of green screen stuff now. But back then, Dreyfuss was like, we didn't know what we were doing. We had never done anything like this before. Right.
And because even in Jaws, they had the big Bruce
they actually had
thing to actually have the thing to fight. It wasn't even like, oh, there's going to be a shark here.
Yeah.
So, it was brilliantly done. I mean, still looks great. I mean, I know it's been remastered and everything like that. And
8 Academy nominations.
There's some scenes that I just always, to me, when you talk about this film, there are certain scenes that always pop into my head. Them finding Flight 19 was one of them. That one kind of was, but I love, probably my favorite scene is in India when they go and they're all chanting and he goes, "Where did you hear this from?" And they all go, all you see is the hands come up.
Yes.
That just kind of gives you like goosebumps. You're like, chills. It's like, oh,
it's a fantastic scene. And there's a behind the scenes shot looking from the front of those people back at the camera. There's a camera right. They're all kind of standing together and there's a camera right behind them. And don't look at that picture because it kind of makes it loses some of that. I know exactly what you're talking about. That scene is spine chilling. And when you see how they did it, you're like, oh, they're all just standing there. You know what I mean?
Well, I kind of figure out how they would have done it. It wasn't like it was a trick shot.
Yeah, no.
But I mean, it's just, to me, as a scene in the film, it was very powerful.
Yeah.
That all these people heard this sound, the tone. And of course, we all know the famous, notes. I mean, it's kind of
So John Williams, let's talk about John Williams, the amazing John Williams. So they had decided it had to be a 5-note combo. It couldn't be a real song. And it could be 7 notes, couldn't be 3 notes, had to be 5 notes. John Williams came up with 100 different 5-note combinations. And Spielberg went over and they just listened and played. And that was the one that they kept going back to and kept going back to.
Interestingly enough, Williams scored this whole movie before the film was done. And then Spielberg went and matched the scenes, the editing to the
jam session,
which is never done that way. It's usually
that whole scene, this intergalactic, I call it the jam session. That was all done prior. The guy playing the piano in the scene was actually just a sound tech that Spielberg watched him work and was like, you know what, you play the sound tech in the movie. Like he would do that. He would just grab people and let them throw them in the movie, which is really pretty cool, actually.
So the other was I going to say. I lost my train. Oh, when Richard Dreyfuss is getting on the ship and they're playing the music, I never noticed it until today when I'm watching it, that it's Can You Wish Upon a Star is
it's only in the director's cut.
Yeah. Oh, is it really? Okay, well, that's maybe why.
That music is not in the theatrical release. That was only, but you're right. It is When You Wish Upon a Star. It absolutely is. And you know what? I don't think I like that. I don't know how I feel about it. It's a little bit.
To me, it was put in subtly enough that.
Yeah,
I don't really mind it, but again, maybe that's why. I guess that's why I never noticed it before, because it wasn't only in the direction.
Yeah, he did soften it, but it's a little too on the nose. I don't know how I feel about it. What do you guys think in the? Oh, hi, John Capes. What do you guys think in the chat? Yeah, John, you weren't here at the beginning. John Capes, I had a Devil's Tower made out of mashed potatoes, but I've been eating it. What do you guys feel about When You Wish Upon the Star at the end of this movie? Does it fit, or does it make the whole thing just suddenly a little bit, not silly, but just a little bit too. This is a momentous occasion. He's leaving on a UFO. I don't know if we should go that childlike.
Does Disney own this now?
We should go that childlike. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Did you see Lance Henriksen and Carl Weathers in this thing?
Yep. Now, that's another thing. I could have sworn in that crowd at the very end, when they're panning over these scientists staring at this thing, that I saw a very young Willem Dafoe. There's a guy in there that could be his brother if it isn't him.
Wow, now that I didn't notice. I know J. Allen Hynek's in there.
Yeah, I did see Carl Weathers in there.
Chris likes his Devil Tower with butter. Kent agrees with me. A little too trite. Yeah, that's a good word, Kent. Trite. I don't know how I feel about it.
Well, clearly it's the director's cut, so it's Spielberg.
It's Spielberg's decision, and he wanted it there. Because in his mind, in Spielberg's mind, and he said this in an interview, Dreyfuss's character and the little 3-year-old boy Carrie Guffey, they were the same, literally the same person, but they should both be the same character. They both should have the same childlike wonder at what's happening with these aliens. They should both approach the aliens the same way, which maybe they did. I don't know. Let me see what else I have in my notes here that we can talk about. I love this. You were saying that for you, the scene is the fingers pointing out. For me, the scene is just like Spielberg, the kid opening the door to Orange, and how scary that was. And maybe the scene in the truck where the mailboxes were.
Yeah, certainly. Like we said, we talked about the house scene, and when he opens the door, the bright orange light. And then, of course, when he crawls through the doggy door there and gets sucked out.
Which, if you catch it at just the right moment, you see it was his mom, his real mom on the other side. You see her arm for just like a split second, but that's okay. It doesn't ruin it. Oh, there's a funny story about that scene. There's Carrie Guffey, who's a really cool guy and has done a lot of interviews about his experiences on this movie. Spielberg had been really cool with him and had been taking him aside and explaining everything. This is what's going to happen, and I don't want you to be scared, and blah, 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 blah. And so in the scene in the kitchen where everything goes crazy, the stove kind of lights up, the burners go on, it's rocking and moving, there's like a freezer or something moving, everything's moving. And they were throwing silverware and knives and stuff through the air. Spielberg had told the little boy, this is what's going to happen. Don't be scared. It's going to be, we aren't going to hurt you. Everything's going to be fine. And so they're doing the scene. And Melinda, of course, is acting. She's in an interview and she's like, of course, I'm acting scared and I'm screaming. But they're also throwing knives at us. So I'm for real covering this kid, like for real. Because I didn't want this kid to get hit with a knife. And Carrie, in his interview, was like, I thought to myself, I knew what was going on, but Melinda was screaming. So I thought Steven Spielberg forgot to take her inside and explain to her what was going to happen. He forgot to tell her that we were just going to throw some stuff.
I'm really surprised he remembers as much. I mean, he was only 3. I can't remember hardly anything from when I was 3.
He has. You guys go look on YouTube. There's so many interviews with him, and he's got the greatest stories from filming. And he maintained a relationship with Spielberg, just kind of on and off over the years. And when he got to the end of high school, he said, what should I do? And Spielberg said, go get a degree. They can't take that away from you. You will always have the degree. Once you get your degree, then go explore, go try whatever the hell you want. And if it doesn't work, you still got the degree. And so that's what the kid did. He went, I don't know what he is. He's not in acting now. I'm not sure what he does. But he's in a lot of interviews. If you guys go on YouTube and look up stuff for Close Encounters, you're going to find Carrie Guffey like all over the place.
So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah,
He
the cop car
remembers.
goes off.
I'm amazed that he remembers as much, but clearly
I
it
am
was
too. Anyway, back to the scenes we
significant
like.
in his life.
Yeah. Back to the scenes that we like. Kent was just talking about the cop car. The other scene that I love is the wide shot of Devil's Tower with the UFO coming up behind it, and you see how big this thing is. Because you know how big Devil's Tower is,
Right.
And then you see this thing, and it goes up, and then it slowly rotates to bring the dome down. Yeah.
No, the scale was good. I like the little ships that kind of, and I love the scene when you first see them out in space, and it even says there's uncoordinated targets or something, and they all come from different directions, and then they make the Big Dipper.
Yes,
they do. That the constellation.
I was about to say that. Yeah. If you watch the night skies, not just that scene, but throughout the entire movie, if you watch the night skies, there's always one star moving. Always. Not always.
Yeah.
Often. There's often one star moving.
But there was like a little cutesiness to the little ships. Like they do the little thing, and then there's always a little red one that goes,
ice cream.
Comes. Yeah, the ice cream comes. But there's always like the one that's like a little red ball of light.
And it comes not even a ship,
and it's always last. It's kind of like the lagging.
But it made me wonder. Okay, so like, what are they? Are they scout ships? Are they just like everyone's pleasure?
I assumed the little red thing was just like a drone or a probe.
A drone or something.
On its own. There was nobody in that one.
Like
the other ones were just they were probably just like maybe their version of a fighter craft, or just a shuttle or something. Maybe. Who knows?
So I already mentioned aliens. Well, yeah, aliens. Who knows what they do? I already mentioned that you do see the Starship Enterprise in this movie. It's in the scene where he's throwing all the crap in the window.
Well, it's right when he decides. It's when he's when he decides that he's going to be done with this, and he's throwing out all of his newspaper clippings, and he's like, "Everything's going to be fine, honey." And then he gets all of a sudden he sees the tower, and he's kind of like he changes his mind.
He's built this massive thing in his living room, and the wife hasn't seen this, so she'd freak out. But the Starship Enterprise is hanging, and you see it swinging. But I want to mention there's a bunch of Star Wars references, and the one that everyone knows is on that mothership. It's a blink and you miss it. They have they put a bunch of Easter eggs on that mothership, but they glued a little R2-D2. He is upside down, but he is on that mothership, and you do see it kind of go by. For maybe a second and a half. But it was all the same crew. It was Greg Jean. Like I said before, it was Greg Jean. It was Doug Trumbull. It was,
There were all the guys that were working at what would become ILM.
What would become ILM. Yeah. And so there's a lot of Easter eggs. I would love to see, there's a couple different models of that mothership, and I would love to look at it.
I wouldn't be surprised if, was there one in the Greg Jean collection that they just auctioned off? I want to say, because I know he was involved in making that. So I wouldn't be surprised if he had a version of it. But
I don't know, but you know who we could ask? We could ask Patrick Reed Johnson, because he has a model of it. And I think he said it was, do you remember? It's in the movie and he talked about it.
The one that Gene gave it to him, you think?
I don't know. He would know, and I would love to, because it's a fascinating design. Because Spielberg had originally just wanted this big black thing that blotted out the stars, and then he was in India filming the Fingers Up scene, and they had a refinery over there. And if you've ever seen a refinery, if you guys ever driven past a refinery, 1 million towers with lights everywhere, like all over the damn place. And honestly, that is what it looks like. It looks like a refinery. So the overall effect, like one side is like a city, maybe, and the other side is this dome. And from out at the bottom of the dome comes the trapezoid thing. On set, they only had the Oh, that was Carrie Duffy's other funny memory. He goes, people ask me about the ship all the time. He's like, it was just a trapezoid thing. I mean, there wasn't much to it. He goes, but I was really, really mad. At 3 years old, I was so mad because the ramp coming down was slippery, and they made me wear ballet slippers or something stupid, like something that he didn't want to wear to walk down that ramp. And he was so mad because little boys don't wear ballet slippers. Like, it was that kind of thing, You
sure he was only 3? I don't remember having.
He was 3 or 4. Like, he was cast when he was 3 and maybe 4 when he shot.
Maybe it sounds 4 years still sounds.
Some of this stuff maybe his mom reminding him, and now he's just carried it through over the years. But yeah, he has a lot of stories for.
I did notice when I was thinking about that when I was watching it. Why is the ramp so steep?
It's steep and slick looking. It does look shiny.
Doesn't seem like a very good design.
Harry got cast because it was down to 2 little boys, and one was really outgoing and rough and tumble and was getting into everything, and and Melinda loved him. Melinda loved the outgoing kid, and the other kid was Carrie, and Carrie was really quiet and really observant, but really reactive. Like he really facially reacted to stuff that Spielberg did in the auditions, and so he got cast. Like that's why he got cast. And you see it. You literally see all that happening in the movie. The kid wasn't acting. The kid was reacting throughout the entire movie.
Yeah, yeah. No, he did. He was very believable.
Very believable,
in that case, because he probably, like you said, they were genuine. He wasn't acting. So, yeah. What else could we say? We didn't really go over the cast much. We were supposed to do that.
No, we didn't. And can I talk about the casting of Francois Truffaut? What a weird little cast choice. Not weird, but great casting choice. Spielberg was nervous to ask him, and then finally asked him. Truffaut said yes because he was working on a novel or a book about actors and their experiences, and so he's like, "No, just treat me as an actor." But it was such a funny casting choice. To me, it was just like David Cronenberg being in Disco. David Cronenberg is a very established and excellent director with a catalog of his own of fantastic movies, and then he played that role in Disco of and you didn't see the final season. It's revealed that he is actually now I can't think of the character he plays. I'll think of it.
Well, I guess I'm confused as to why you thought it was so odd that he's an established actor. I don't know what the confusion is.
No, Francois Truffaut is not an established actor. Francois Truffaut is a director. He was a director.
He does.
It would be like me asking Kubrick.
He's acted in 16
role in my movie.
Things.
Huh?
You're right. He's a writer director primarily, but he does.
He's a director.
He has done acting though.
Yeah, he had done some acting.
I understand what you're saying. I do. Yeah. I get it.
Yeah, asking a director to be the actor in your film. What an interesting.
Well, maybe they had drinks one night, and he said, "Hey, you know what? I'd really love to do this."
No, he tried to get Gerard Depardieu, but it wasn't working out, and some other French dude. And then finally, he was like, "You know what? I'm just going to try for Truffaut and see what he says." And luckily, Truffaut said yes. It worked brilliantly. Truffaut's. I mean, he's so sympathetic because he's not the mean government guy. Also, he's French, but he's not the mean government guy. It was a really great characterization, and it fit really well with what we needed. Like the scene in The Office where Dreyfus is like, "Yeah, I got one just like it in my living room," and he throws the picture. Who are you people? Like that scene is so well played. The other character I love is David. What the hell is his name? David Balaban. David Balaban's is it David? What's Balaban's first name? Bob Balaban. Sorry, guys. Bob Balaban. You guys know him. He's in a million things. He's
been in stuff. He was in 2010.
He's everywhere. He's in 2010. He's everywhere.
Yeah.
He took the part having only had high school French. I was like, yeah, I can speak French. He did not really speak French. But over preparing for the movie, he's brushed up on his French, and he ended up speaking quite a bit with Francois Truffaut. And yeah, they got along quite well, and his French is quick. But he kept a diary throughout filming, and they ended up publishing the diary to coincide with the film's release to sort of help generate. They didn't have merch like the way Star Wars had merch, but they had this book.
So then, of course, we talked about Richard Dreyfuss. We all know Richard Dreyfuss. We really don't have to go over the other one. Of course, Terry Garr is another one that was the wife. She's always rock solid, and is what she does. She doesn't have a huge part.
She's we knew her from Star Trek. We all seen her in Star Trek before this,
right? Well, prior to this, she was in Young Frankenstein.
Oh, yes,
and other films. So she was established by this point.
Yeah,
not a superstar, but certainly known actress in Hollywood. And then Melinda Dillon, who of course plays Jillian, Barry's mother. But of course she was the mother in the other
Christmas Story.
Christmas Story. Right? So that's another one of my faves. We talked about Bob, and the rest of the people are kind of. I don't know of anybody.
Yeah, everyone else is blinking. You miss it. Lance Henriksen, blinking. You miss him. Carl Weathers. Depending on which version you see him speaking in the theatrical release, I believe that scene was cut.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great little cast.
Yeah.
I'm just looking.
Yeah, it was a good cast, and again, it worked for it was minimalist in the sense that it was a lot of people, but not a lot of people act like were key actors. You know what I'm saying? There's a ton of extras. I mean,
Yeah.
you look at the scene at the rail yard alone.
Yeah,
I mean,
there was
and that to me was another very, very Spielberg-esque scene. That chaotic.
Yeah, a million
enemy of
people
Jaws again when you had all the people on the beach and
yeah.
running, and he does that chaotic scene.
Yeah, he does, and he did
really
that same thing he did on Jaws. In Jaws, you had Roy Scheider sitting on the beach, and people kept walking in front and passing by the camera, and it was, you know, he did the exact same thing in that scene where people are moving by, and you're just getting glimpses of Roy and what was Melinda's name? Jillian. Roy and Jillian working their way like through this train yard toward each other.
Yeah, and again, but it gave you this sense of chaos that is done very well. That the scale of it, that this is a large, you know, it's kind of funny that there was parts of me like why he didn't get stopped before he got there, but and then I noticed that the car, he had the wagon, which was, I guess he must have rented it, but it had Wyoming plates. I did notice that.
Yeah, I have to imagine they rented it. Yeah. The other thing I just wanted to mention is that not only was this based on a project that Spielberg had been working on called Firelight, which then became Watchers in the Sky or something like that. It actually kind of was quasi based on a real experience that he had as a child. When he was a little kid, his dad woke him up in the middle of the night and said, "Come on, let's go." And they went out and they drive in the middle of the night and they get to the park and there's people laid out on blankets all over the place. And his dad was like, "Come on, let's sit in the grass and look up." And it was the Perseid meteor shower. It was one of the meteor showers. And they lay there and just watch these meteors like shoot across the sky for a while. And he said it was a really, really cool experience and a fantastic memory. And he wanted to kind of, and that's sort of the feeling that he evokes the night when Roy wakes his family up. Remember, he's waking all the kids up. He's like, "Come on, guys, come on. And he brings them out and nope, the aliens didn't show up.
Yeah. So interesting enough, I was just reading Ray Bradbury thought this was one of the greatest science fiction films ever. Neil deGrasse Tyson would disagree with that.
Probably, yes.
Well, no, for a fact, I know that because if you watch that video where he rated science fiction movies, this was not high on Neil deGrasse Tyson.
No, it was not. Didn't Neil deGrasse Tyson criticize the need for runway lights? Because they had runway lights for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, but to me, that was, you could criticize it, but in the same time, that was a thing that we would, as humans, would think maybe would need. To show them this is the way, you know?
We're here. That's what, to me, it read as.
Yeah, it wasn't so much as a runway, but
as an actual runway. Yeah.
Another interesting fact is this was one of the first films to ever have a special edition or a director's cut.
Oh, really? Oh, yes, because the studio told him to do it, and he was like, okay, but he wanted the money.
Yeah.
But and then they made him put that scene where you actually see Roy go inside the ship that none of us liked because none of us wanted to see.
Right. Yeah. Don't even watch that version.
Yeah. Don't even watch that. Yeah.
Yeah, because it just wasn't. You know, sometimes it's that, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not seeing it makes it better.
Not seeing it makes it scarier. Yeah, we talked about that at length in Jaws. Yeah.
Well, we know that. And that's another thing. Did you catch the Jaws theme when the
yes, I did. Yeah.
That was great. I'm like, oh my God, I never noticed it.
Spielberg kind of broke his own rule because he not showing it. He did that in the house when the aliens come in the house and the little kid is in the orange light and they open the refrigerator and spill food all over the place. He never once showed the aliens that at work. That scene works so brilliantly. But then later on, when we finally get to the landing zone, then he's showing them, and then it kind of loses some of the mystique, I think. It was more fun listening to the music, like listening to them play back and forth. That's one thing that has always bothered me about this movie. You know, the one technician's like taking note of this conversation now, and he turns on the recording. Yeah. I'm like, now you're gonna you should have been recording
right now you're doing it. But that was the other thing. They had these. You notice there was a scene where they had all these still cameras like on sort of a gimbal going like ticking away. I'm like, okay, that would have lasted. Figure even a big roll is like 36 rounds. Would have been gone. Who's running back and forth reloading these?
Yeah.
And the same
There
thing
were
again.
there's a
It's all
bunch of little
technology.
things.
By today, it would also all be video and digital, and they wouldn't have
What are we?
anything.
And he's like, "What are we saying to each other?" I'm like, "Ah, this isn't going well. This whole first contact thing."
Right, that's true because they were just kind of going back and they like
If
made
it
it
was a
sound
language,
like they knew what they were supposed to respond with, but
yeah, they were responding like, and he's like, fourth quaver, fifth quaver, half
yeah.
a quaver, semi-quaver. And I'm like, I don't even know what this set. What are we saying?
I also noticed it was kind of funny. The guy who was the you said was the who was playing the organ.
Yeah, that was
And then they get to
sound
the
that
ship
guy.
lands, and this organ is on like a big moving platform that
Yeah,
moves.
and they move it away from him.
Why would they? Why would they even be aware that they would need to move the organ? Like, why was the
Why would
organ
they
on
move
a
it
movable
closer?
platform?
Do you not have speakers that blast?
Well, I mean,
the
what
sound?
was the
You
point
got
of even
lights.
moving it? Right, exactly. What was the point of moving it closer? It didn't make
You
any
got the
sense. I
lights
mean,
flashing
clearly you
around.
could see the lights. It wasn't like you were to see.
I mean, it is a weird scene. It was maybe not as fleshed out as it could have been because it was
Yeah,
working.
and
We
then
were clearly communicating. It just no one knew what we were saying to them.
yeah, well, then the computers took over, and then that's when things went no, 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 and all the the super fast. Anyway, it's all this is just nitpicking stuff. I mean, overall,
this is my
it's
favorite.
brilliant, and I hope nobody ever tries to remake it. I don't think anybody ever will. But
No,
it's certainly one of a classic. It'll remain a classic for years. It always is an enjoyable movie, even with its flaws and its datedness, technology wise.
Maybe a little dated, yeah. When you see the house,
it's kind of a lot dated when you think about, like I said, the film with the still cameras clicking away, and they got these big film cameras they're filming with, and the cars are very 70s.
The house, the cars, house. Yeah, all of that.
So I mean, it's dated in that sense. No, I agree, because I don't see anybody even attempting to remake it, at least not in our lifetime. You never know. And my horror was amazes that they never. And I think Spielberg probably would be the one to put because I bet you he owns probably a lot of the rights to it since it was his story.
Yeah, I would imagine he does. Yeah.
He's to do a sequel. Like Richard Dreyfuss comes back.
Yeah, and shares the wisdom of the universe.
Thing. Every time, like I said, every time they reveal, too many things about what's going on in a movie or a book or something, like in a sequel, that I think it loses its mystique.
Yeah, I agree. The last little tidbit, and this is only UFO buffs like me. I love me a good UFO story, which you guys know already because I yap about it every Halloween when I'm yapping about Vast of Night. But this was very loosely based on a rumor UFO story called Project Serpico, where we supposedly, lots of quotes and allegations here, supposedly sent a team off with the aliens, and they left an alien with us. Because remember, at the end of the movie, one little alien comes out, and I think it's meant to stay. Not the one that does this.
No.
Whatever the heck this is. There's another little one that comes out and comes over to one of the scientists. I think she's meant to stay with us while Dreyfuss goes off with them. A little, not a prisoner exchange. What do you call it?
It's like a it's like a student
exchange. Yeah,
exchange student.
Exchange students. Yeah.
All right. Well, it is 8 o'clock. So
okay, yeah, it's 8 o'clock. Roy and Phil. Let me tell you what Roy and Phil is doing. Roy is doing a movie that I've never heard of, 1963's X, The Man with X-Ray Eyes. This is kind of sci-fi horror. It's a Roger Corman movie, so it should be pretty fun. And Phil has a big day tomorrow. He will be on the Bill McNulty show at noon talking politics, and oh boy, was there a lot of news in politics this past week. Then he has the Liverpool Shuffle on at 3. They are a Beatles tribute band, if you're into the Beatles. And then he's talking to a singer from Ireland called Laura Mulcahy, talking about her new tracks. Oh, and he's also talking to Michael Schilling about Shore Leave, because Shore Leave starts Friday. This Friday? Yes, Shore Leave starts this Friday. So Phil's got a lot going on WUSB tomorrow. And Rizzo, as we mentioned at the top of the show, we're off again
next week because I am going to be
off to Las Vegas.
I'll probably by 7 o'clock here. I'll probably be just getting into Las
Yeah, I expect it would be. At what time are you
get in
leaving?
about. I just have to look at my itinerary. I think I get in like late afternoon. So
Do you actually have to help Mark set up, or
he should be
happen?
set up. He's getting there days ahead of me. So
Oh, okay.
that was never part of the deal. So
please say hi to the Okudas and Darren
yeah,
and
I
Mark
will get to see the Okudas. Hopefully, I'll get to see
and maybe
Drexler.
Doug
I
Drexler
know
will
he'll
be
be
there.
there. I'll definitely see Darren. And
Chris
anybody
LaRoche
else
wants pictures. Rizzo, we want pictures from Vegas.
big pictures. Yeah, I'll try to do my best to do that. And
wait, is it To Serve Man? You guys, is that X-Ray Eyes the To Serve Man movie?
No. The Serve Man was a Twilight Zone.
Oh, okay.
So
I just wonder what the chat was chatting about over there.
So yeah, well, hopefully I'll have fun there in Vegas. Looks like they're adding some interesting guests.
Yeah, and there's gonna be. Are you gonna go to Dr. Min and those guys are all gonna redo?
They're gonna do
Plan of
They're gonna do Plan 9.
Plan 9,
yeah. See, that's like a $65 ticket just for general admission. So I don't know if I'm going to cough that up. Yeah, it was like if you want like certain like seating like up near the front, it was like $185.
I take it your vendor's badge is not going to cover that, huh?
Wouldn't get me in there, no, because that's anything that's costs above and beyond. My vendor badge would only get in the stuff that the general admission would get you. Yeah. So I don't know if I'm going to cough up $65.
I think that one, I might cough up for that one. I was jealous.
Yeah, it might be worth it. It might be worth it because it's got a pretty good cast doing it. I'm sure it's going to be a hoot.
Jeff advises you try the Circus buffet. I don't think Jeff.
That's over on the Strip. Yeah, I'm not going to be really near there. But
I don't think Circus is even there anymore.
Is it even there anymore? Yeah, I don't know. So, yeah, I mean, it's so hot. I'm not going to be. If I go anywhere, it's Uber.
Yeah, going in the Uber.
I've been there in August. It's not fun. You don't go outside much.
No, not in Vegas in August.
Last time we walked on the Strip at 11 o'clock at night, and it was still 111 degrees.
I believe you.
It was brutal. Dry as an oven, but
believe you.
Just not pleasant. So anyway, I will when we come back. I'll give everybody a full of what happened.
Yes, we want to hear the details.
Yeah. So until then, we will see you next time in a couple weeks. Yes. Guys, in the meantime, live long and prosper, and always may the force be with you.